What is going on, Warriors? Jose Garza here, your Devil Doc. And up until this point, I've been talking about what you can do to help yourself with your claim. Today, in this video, we're going to be talking about what we can do to get the VA off of their asses and help you with your claim. So we're going to be going over the 4142 and the 4142A, which is basically the forms that allow you to authorize the VA to go out and receive your medical information from medical facilities outside of the government health providers. So 4142, 4142A, let's get right into it. Okay, before I get into going over the 4142 and the 4142A, I'm going to have my handy dandy AI voice reader read you a statement here. This is from the M21-1. The what? The what? What the hell did he just say? The M21-1. That is the secret weapon there. We're going to be going over that later in another video. But again, here is my AI reader going over a statement from the M21-1.
Upon receipt of a substantially complete initial or supplemental claim, VA must make reasonable efforts to assist a claimant in obtaining relevant non-federal or private records from all sources that the claimant adequately identifies.
Okay, so how do you adequately identify the medical facilities outside of the federal government that you have been seen at, right? And how do we get the VA to reach out to those medical facilities and ask them to send the VA your medical records? First, the VA has to have permission from you. They have to have an authorization form. And that form is going to be the 4142, which you see here. So it's very basic. It's basically just your information. It contains all of your identifiable information here and your signature that basically says that you are allowing the VA to reach out to a medical provider and receive your medical records from them. So we'll kind of just go over it here really quickly and point out some of the sections here. Like I said, this form is really fairly straightforward. Section 1 is the veteran identification information. Make sure that you fill this information out. They're going to need that. Your medical providers outside of the VA or any federal medical provider is going to need this type of information to identify your records within their system. Section 2, 3, and 4 are basically describing what types of information they're going to look for. Section 2, again, let me jump back to that, is patient identification for records the VA is requesting if it's someone other than the veteran in Section 1. So, yeah, usually this Section 3 and Section 4 is just for informational purposes. What I wanted to point out on this, again, when you have more than one form, make sure that when you're submitting this, that on the second pages of these forms, that you make sure your Social Security is there at the top. But I wanted to point out Section 5, the authorization and consent to release information to the VA and the signature. So generally what we like to do with number 12 there, question number 12, is leave it blank, right? So you see up in the top where it says, if this space is left blank, there is no limitation to the records. Unless you have something in your record that you do not want the VA to see, this is a personal choice, I suppose. If there are things in there that you don't want them to see, you want to identify them here. But basically, my opinion is that you would want the VA to pull all of the information that any medical provider would have on you or in your record. It's probably going to make the process quicker. If the medical facility that you're requesting your records from doesn't have to go in there and kind of edit that information, then they just pull your records, send the whole thing to the VA, and then it's good to go. It's a lot faster. Obviously, you want to make sure that your name and the date and the printed name and yourself are also noted on this form. So this is the first part of the 4142. So this is the authorization to disclose information to the Department of Veterans Affairs. This is the form that you sign to give the VA its authorization to go out to medical providers outside of the federal government and pull your medical records from them. Okay, so the second part of the 4142 is the 4142A, and this is the form where you identify what medical facilities, clinics, hospitals, urgent cares, anything where you've been seen, chiropractors, acupuncture, mental health professionals. You identify them on this 4142A, and this gives the VA the information it needs to reach out to that medical provider and ask them to release your medical records to the VA to help support your claim. So these forms, they're not critical to your VA claim. You may have your own medical records. You may have the information that you need, any types of documentation that you got from your medical providers. But, if you are having trouble, if they're in another state or just having difficulty receiving or getting your medical provider to release your medical records, usually a letter from the Department of Veterans Affairs is intimidating enough for them to release that information fairly quickly. So it doesn't work with some of the smaller medical facilities. So let's say you got a standalone medical facility, a doctor that's out there in private practice, doesn't have a whole lot of staff. The VA will send them a letter. Sometimes they're not very quick to respond, but your larger medical insurance companies, they respond fairly quickly. So 4142, 4142A, you definitely want to make sure you submit this with your claim if you have or are having trouble retrieving your medical records. So this does not apply to any VA hospital or your medical service record. The VA will already have that, and they don't need permission to pull from their own federal facilities. So with that, this is a fairly quick video, guys. We are going to close this one up. Again, please subscribe, please like these videos, and I will try to get out as much information. One last note on the M21-1, take a look at it. That's the secret. I'm going to be going over it soon, but for now, give me a thumbs up, give me a like, and yeah, I'll see you in the next video.